Although it is called Inner Mongolia, it is not far from Heilongjiang, and it is almost at the border of Outer Mongolia. The residents are mainly Han, with only a few Manchu and Mongolian people. If you have never been to Hill Village, you will never imagine how difficult it is there. There were 6 of us in the group of educated youth, 4 men and 2 women. We were dumbfounded when we arrived. There were rolling mountains and endless primeval forests all around. We walked 100 miles out of the village and could not see a single person. There is no road here, let alone electricity. Lighting an oil lamp is considered a cadre treatment. Using a flashlight here is equivalent to living in a presidential suite now. It is completely unimaginable in the city. At that time, we thought that all parts of the motherland had upstairs and downstairs electricity and telephones. However, I felt fresh at that time. I had never seen such a big mountain before. I had never eaten many things produced in the mountain. The mountains nearby were richer, with many mountain products. You could also catch fish in the river, so you didn't have to worry about not having enough food. Later, when I returned to the city, I heard that those who went to Shanxi to work in the production team said that they were really complaining. In the past few years, they had never seen a decent grain of food. The work of the educated youth was not too hard, because this place relied on the mountains to make a living, and there were not many crops. In the summer nights, we took turns to go to the fields to watch the crops. Because we were afraid of being eaten by wild beasts, 1 or 2 people had to stay in the fields every night. The crops in the mountains were not like the thousands of miles of green tents on the North China Plain, but a piece in the east and a piece in the west. Wherever the land was flat, a piece of land was opened, so we had to go out often at night. That night I happened to be with Biggie Wong. Biggie Wong was sleeping in a straw hut. I went out for a walk and saw that there was nothing wrong, so I went back to sleep. When I was almost at the hut, I saw a large round white shadow not far from the hut. I rubbed my eyes and looked carefully. It was not my eyes, but it was too dark and I couldn't see clearly what it was. I didn't believe in ghosts at that time and thought it was an animal, so I picked up a stick to drive it away. In the pitch black there was a white thing, and it was shaking slightly. What on earth was it? It didn't look like an animal, but if it wasn't an animal, why would it move? It was too dark and I didn't have a kerosene lamp to illuminate it, so I couldn't tell what it was. Although I am not afraid of ghosts, I still have some fear when facing unknown things. I dare not swing the stick to hit directly. The stick in my hand is actually a thick branch picked up from the ground. I gently poked the pile of white things with the branch. It was very soft. Suddenly I heard Biggie Wong shouting in the dark, "Ah, what are you doing?" "August, who? Why are you poking my butt with a branch?" It was a false alarm. It turned out that Biggie Wong ate unclean fruits during the day and had diarrhea at night. He squatted there to make a toilet. His big white butt was conspicuous in the dark. The next morning, Biggie Wong insisted that I compensate him, claiming that I scared more than 1 million brain cells last night. I said, "With your brain, can you have so many brain cells? You and I are both poor bachelors." We accepted the highest instructions to come to the countryside to receive the necessary re-education of poor and lower-middle peasants. What do you want me to compensate you with? I have to tell you in advance that as your close revolutionary comrade, all my belongings are left is this last pair of pants I am wearing now. You won't ask me to compensate you with this pair of pants, will you?" Biggie Wang said with a sly smile, "No need. I saw a very large beehive in the old forest of Tuanshanzi yesterday. Come with me to poke the beehive. We can make some honey and drink it with water. We can also use the honey to exchange rabbit meat with Yanis's father. Yanis is the name of a girl. Her father is a famous old hunter in the village. Biggie Wang and I both live in her family's educated youth center. The father and daughter often go hunting in the mountains and treat us to game from time to time. We always feel a little guilty about eating other people's good things, but we are too poor and have nothing to treat Yanis and his daughter back. Biggie Wang found a big beehive, so we decided to get some honey back for Yanis. We both had a quick temper and did what we said. In the past, Biggie Wang and I were well-known naughty kings in the city. Poking a beehive was nothing. We often did things that were 10 times more serious than this. I was afraid of getting lost, so I borrowed Yanis's hunting dog. It was a half-grown puppy. Yanis raised it himself. Yanis named the puppy Milo. He was reluctant to take it out hunting. Seeing that we were going to Tuanshanzi to play, he lent the dog to us. Tuanshanzi is not far from our village in a straight line, but because there is no road, it took half a day to walk over the mountains and ridges to get there. This forest is very large. The villagers warned us not to go in, saying that there were bears in it. We saw a man with only half a face in the village. He encountered a bear here when he was a child. Fortunately, Yanis's father arrived in time, shot and scared away the bear, and saved him. But the boy's face was still licked by the bear man. The bear man's tongue was full of inverted flesh thorns, and it licked off a large piece of flesh. His left face had no eyes or ears, and his nose and mouth were crooked. He was over 40 years old, but he still couldn't get a wife. The old people in the village would cry when they talked about him. Although we were brave, we didn't dare to enter the primeval forest rashly. The beehive that Biggie Wang mentioned was found at the edge of the forest when he and the villagers came to collect pine nut oil. The beehive was on a big tree near a stream outside the forest. But what was unexpected was that this beehive was too big, bigger than the ones we had poked before. From a distance, it looked like a calf without limbs hanging on the tree, and there were huge black stinging bees flying around inside, making a deafening buzzing sound. I said, "Biggie Wang, you are fucking cheating me. Is this a beehive? This is simply a huge wasp atomic bomb. What will happen if it is poked?" Biggie Wang is right. If it is an ordinary beehive, do I need to find you? I solved it by myself. How about that? Do you still dare to do it? I said, "This is nothing. Our team is invincible. We are not afraid of even the planes and tanks of American imperialism. How can we be afraid of a few little bees? They are all paper tigers. Damn it, we will eat honey today." Having said that, we can't act recklessly. If we make a mistake, we will be stung to death by wasps. This kind of bee is so huge that it must be poisonous. It doesn't take much. Just 1 or 2 hits will be over. There happened to be a small river next to it. This is called God's Help. I took out a piece of cake and broke it into 2 pieces, fed it to puppy Mallow, and let it run away. Then we each put on the military coats we brought, put on dogskin hats, tied scarves, put on gloves, and covered the front of the hats with a transparent scarf borrowed from a female educated youth. After checking that there was no exposed skin on the body, Biggie Wong found 2 hollow reeds, one for each of us, ready to use for breathing when we jumped into the river to avoid the bee swarm attack. After we were ready, we came to the tree like 2 bloated bears, swaying in 3 steps. I held a ball of winter grass and matches in my hand, ready to go, and Biggie Wang took a long pole and counted. 1, 2, 3. When he counted to 3, he used the long pole to poke the part connecting the beehive and the tree trunk. Before he had poked 4 or 5 times, the huge beehive fell to the bottom of the tree with a bang, and countless large hornets inside immediately flew out like a camp exploded, forming a large black fog in the sky buzzing above our heads. I was well prepared in advance. I ignored the attack of the swarm of bees. I lit the winter grass with a match and placed it at the downwind side of the hive. The giant bees that flew out of it lost their sense of direction after being smoked by the smoke and flew around everywhere. Biggie Wang and I piled a firewall with mud around the burning dead grass to prevent the formation of a mountain fire. At this time, the wasps that were not smoked by the smoke had already recognized the target and rushed towards us. I felt like hail was falling on my head. I didn't dare to stay. I hurriedly ran to the stream next to me with Biggie Wong. The stream was not deep, only less than 1 meter deep. We dived to the bottom, and the wasps on our bodies were washed away by the stream. I held down the dog-skin hat on my head with one hand to prevent it from being washed away by the water, and took out the reed with the other hand to breathe. It took a long time before I emerged and found that the bees were either drowned or fainted by the smoke. They were no longer in danger. Although it was midsummer, the mountain stream was cold. I was shivering all over from the freezing water. I finally climbed ashore and lay on the rocks to breathe heavily. The sun above my head warmed my whole body. It was indescribably comfortable. After a while, Biggie Wang couldn't hold on any longer and climbed ashore unsteadily. Halfway up, he suddenly cried out in pain and raised his arm. I didn't know what had pierced his hand, and there was a big cut, and blood was flowing. I hurried down to the stream to help him. Biggie Wang held the wound tightly and said, "Be careful. There seems to be a broken bowl in the river. It stabbed me to death. There is no one living nearby. How could there be a broken bowl?" I was curious, took off all my clothes, dived into the stream with bare arms, and found half a broken porcelain bowl at the place where Biggie Wang was stabbed. Looking at the style and blue-green pattern of the bowl, it looks a bit like the Northern Song Dynasty blue and white porcelain collected by my grandfather. My grandfather's antiques and calligraphy and paintings were smashed by the Red Guards during the destruction of the Four Olds. I didn't expect to see fragments of such antiques in this deep mountain forest. It really feels a bit familiar, but this thing is useless to me. I raised my hand and threw the half-broken bowl far into the woods. Biggie Wang also stripped off his soaked clothes, bandaged the cuts on his hands, and jumped into the stream again. We both took a bath, and then hung our clothes, shoes, and socks one by one on the pebbles by the stream. I whistled and called Puppy Milo back. Puppy Milo ran back from a distance, holding a fat gray hare in his mouth. I don't know how this unlucky rabbit got into the mouth of Puppy Milo, a hound still in the internship period. When I saw the hare, I was so happy that I hugged puppy Milo and rolled on the ground for a few times. What a good dog! I broke off a large piece of honeycomb from the beehive to reward him. Biggie Wang said, "Let's get some puppies when we get back, so we can have rabbit meat every day." I said, "You're dreaming. No matter how many rabbits there are in the mountains, they can't stop you from eating so much. Stop talking nonsense. I'm really a little hungry. Hurry up and clean up the rabbit. I'll go get some firewood to make a fire." Biggie Wang washed and skinned the rabbit by the stream. I took a bundle of dry pine branches and lit a bonfire. I smeared a thick layer of honey on the skinned rabbit and grilled it on the fire. Soon, the aroma of honey-roasted rabbit meat spread in the air. I cut off the rabbit head and fed it to the dog. I split the remaining rabbit meat in half, and Biggie Wang and I ate it heartily. I have never eaten anything so delicious in my life. I almost swallowed my fingers. Although there was no oil or salt to season it, the rabbit meat smeared with wild honey and grilled with pine branches had a unique natural flavor. I would never imagine that there would be such delicious food in the world in my life in the city. The life of the educated youth was full of joys and sorrows. We were driven to the remote mountainous areas by society. While we lost some things, we also gained some things that we could not get in the city. It seems that some things in life cannot be measured by gains and losses. After eating, seeing that it was getting late and the clothes were almost dry, we used thick branches to string a huge beehive. 2 people carried it one after the other and sang revolutionary songs back to the village. The sky is big. The earth is big, but not as big as our determination. Our father and mother are dear, but not as close as the kindness of the Communist Party. This is really the sound of whips and golden petals and the singing of triumphant songs. The only thing that was not harmonious was that our loud, revolutionary songs were mixed with the excited barking of Puppy Milo, which made me feel a bit like the atmosphere of the devils entering the village in the movie. When I got back to the village, I saw that more than half of the people were gone. So I asked Yanis, "Yanis, where are your father and the others?" Yanis helped us carry the beehive and answered, "The Chaganhan River flooded, and the wood in the forest farm was soaked. At noon, most people in the village went there to help move the wood. The secretary asked me to tell you to take good care of the crops and not to cause trouble. They will not be back for 7 or 8 days. I hate to hear people tell me not to cause trouble, as if I was born to cause trouble everywhere." So I said to Yanis, "The secretary is drunk, right? What trouble can we cause? We are all good children of Chairman Mao." Yanis smiled and said, "Why don't you cause trouble? Since these educated youths from the city came, the hens in the village have stopped laying eggs because of you." The other 2 male educated youths who were with us also went to the forest farm, leaving only Biggie Wang, me, and 2 other female educated youths. We were out playing and were not assigned to work in the forest farm, so we felt very lucky. We collected the honey into jars, filling more than 10 large earthenware jars. Yanis said that the remaining beehives could be used as a dish, and she would make you fried deer meat with beehives in the evening. When it came to eating, Biggie Wang was happy, saying that our life today was almost like the Chinese New Year. We had just eaten roasted rabbit meat in the afternoon and fried deer meat with beehives in the evening. My mouth was watering. Yanis asked where we roasted the rabbit. I told her what happened. Yanis said, "Oh, don't do it stupidly. Roasting wild rabbits by the old forest. What if the smell of meat attracts the bear man?" When we heard her say that, we remembered that it was really too dangerous. Fortunately, the bear man might be sleeping today and didn't smell the aroma of barbecue. While I was helping Yanis light a fire, I told him about Biggie Wang's hand being pierced by a broken bowl in the stream. How could there be a blue and white porcelain bowl from the Song dynasty in the wilderness? Yanis said that was not new at all. When a girl in our village got married, every family would bring a few bottles and jars as dowry, all of which were fished out of the river. The more I listened, the more I found it strange. Can antiques be fished out of the river? Yanis also pulled out 2 porcelain bottles from under the bed and showed them to me. They didn't grow in the river. They all came down from upstream. The sources of the rivers near our village are all in Niusin Mountain in Lamagoo. I heard from the old people that the mountain is the tomb of an unknown Empress Dowager from the Liao and Jin dynasties. The good things buried with the dead are gone. Many people want to find that tomb, but they either can't find it or can't get out after entering Lamagoo. The forest in Lamagoo is very dense. My father once saw wild men in the ditch. Some people also said that Niuxin Mountain is haunted. Anyway, no one dares to go there again in recent years. As we talked, it was already night. Yanis finished cooking. Biggie Wang went to call the other 2 female educated youth to eat. As a result, he and one of them, named Jingjing, ran back panting as soon as they arrived. I hurriedly asked them what happened. Jingjing panted for a long time before she could explain clearly. It turned out that the female educated youth Schumer, who was with her, had a letter from home saying that her mother had asthma and was hospitalized. The disease was quite serious. Schumer heard that the Buddha fruit grown in Lamagoo had a miraculous effect on asthma. So she went to Lamagoo alone to pick Buddha fruit. She went there in the morning and has not returned until now. The veins on my forehead were jumping up and down. Schumer was too reckless. That place was full of primitive forests. Even experienced hunters in the village did not dare to go there casually. Why did she go there alone? Jingjing cried and said that I couldn't stop her. Let's go find her quickly. What if something happened? But now all the laborers in the village have gone to the forest farm. The remaining people are old and young. Only Biggie Wang and I can go to find people. Yanis also took Puppy Mello and a hunting rifle to go with us, leaving Jingjing in the village to watch the crops. With a dog in the mountains, we don't have to worry about getting lost. We didn't dare to delay. We lit a torch and led Puppy Milo into the mountains overnight. There was no way to go in the deep mountains and old forests. I really couldn't understand how Schumer, a girl, dared to go into the deepest part of the mountains alone. Biggie Wang said that she might be anxious and confused. Who wouldn't be anxious when their mother was sick? Because it was dark, we had to let the dog track the smell. Puppy Mallow had not received professional tracking training and often lost it and had to turn back to find it again. So we walked very slowly. The road that used to take 4 or 5 hours took us a whole night. The dawn appeared in the east. The morning breeze in the big forest gave people goosebumps. The fresh air refreshed people. Yanis pointed to the west and said to us, "Look, that big mountain is Niuxin Mountain." Biggie Wang and I looked to the west. in the mountains covered by the vast sea of forests. There stands a strange-looking huge mountain. The whole mountain is shaped like a cow's heart. 9 white jade dragon-like waterfalls rush down from the mountain. The porcelain picked up by the villagers came out of these waterfalls. It seems that the tomb of the Queen Mother of Liao in the legend may be in the mountain, but no one has been able to find the entrance for so many years. When I saw this spectacular mountain, I suddenly had a feeling and assured Chairman Mao that I seemed to have seen such a mountain somewhere. With the thought, I finally remembered a record I saw when I was reading the broken book left by my grandfather. This kind of landscape pattern is an excellent feng shui treasure cave, with hope in front and support in the back. The 9 waterfalls are like 9 dragons taking water, dividing the hills like a blooming lotus. By the way, it seems to be called 9 dragons covering jade lotus. These 9 waterfalls on the mountain, one more or one less, or if there is not such a large water flow, are not enough to reach the pattern of 9 dragons covering jade lotus. 9 is the largest number among the single digits, and has the hidden meaning of supreme. The pronunciation is also the same as long, which means eternity. It has always been regarded as the most auspicious number. In addition, if the water flow of the waterfall is small, it is not called a dragon, but a snake. This kind of feng shui treasure cave is also called Luo Shen Chariot. According to the book, it is most suitable to bury women in such a place. If a man is buried, his family will be in bad luck. At this time, I had a vague feeling in my heart that my grandfather's 16-character, Yin Yang Feng, Shui secret art, was not some messy 4 olds. The content of the book is indeed meaningful. I have to read it carefully after returning. However, I don't think this feng shui technique has any practical value. China has had so many emperors and generals since ancient times. Which one of them was buried in a random place after death? The historical torrent of dynasties changing, prosperity and decline, can it be controlled by whether the ancestral tomb is buried well or not? Yanis pointed to the valley in front of Niuxin Mountain and said, "This is the famous Lama Valley. Legend has it that there are wild men in it, and it is haunted at night." Biggie Wang looked at the primeval forest that blocked out the sun in the valley and frowned and said, "Schumer will definitely get lost if she enters Lama Valley. We only have 3 people and a dog. It's really not easy to find her." I saw that the 2 of them were a little discouraged, so I cheered them up and said, "Communist materialists should not believe that there are ghosts in the world. Whether it is a ghost or a wild man, it would be bad luck for me to meet one. I will catch a few of them alive and take them to Beijing to give to Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao will be very surprised when he sees them." Biggie Wang and I were born in a military family. There is a fearless element in our blood. After hearing what I said, he became energetic and was ready to enter the valley. Only Yanis was worried. As a local, she had heard countless terrible legends about this Lama Valley since she was a child, so she naturally had an innate fear. But saving people is the most important thing now, so we can only forget about those things. The 3 of us sat down and ate some dry food and prepared some equipment. We had 2 hunting rifles in total. These 2 rifles were used by Yanis and her father for hunting. One was a 3-barrel rifle, and the other was a pole-lifting rifle commonly used by the Arakan people. Both of these rifles were very backward. They were all muzzle-loaded gunpowder rifles. They had great lethality at close range, but it was difficult to guarantee the power and accuracy when shooting at targets more than 35 meters away. They were only good for shooting hares and deer. My father took me to the shooting range to play with guns when I was 6 years old. I was very familiar with the standard long and short firearms of the People's Liberation Army, but I was not sure that I could control this muzzle-loading flintlock hunting rifle. Biggie Wong and I had similar experience. We discussed it, and Yanis and I each took a hunting rifle, and Biggie Wong took a machete for chopping wood. After everything was ready, the three of us plunged into the dense forest of Lama Valley. In Lama Valley, compared to the legendary wild men and mountain ghosts, the most real and direct threat comes from the bear man. Although the bear man is the same as the black bear, the bear man likes to walk upright, hence the name. The bear man is huge and has thick skin and flesh. Hunters dare to attack the bear man only when they are in groups with a large number of hunting dogs. If a person encounters a bear man in the primeval forest with a broken gun, it is almost equivalent to being sentenced to death. After walking in the forest for most of the day, the rumbling sound of the 9 waterfalls on Neuxin Mountain became louder and louder. Seeing that Lama Valley has reached the end and is almost at the foot of Neuxin Mountain, there was no bear man or wild man, let alone Schumer. Biggie Wang was so tired that he sat on the ground. No more, really. I can't walk anymore. Yanis said that we should rest for a while. Puppy Milo seemed to be unable to find the scent of Schumer. Alas, what should we do? If I can't find her, the secretary and my father will scold me to death when they come back. I was also exhausted. I took a few gulps of water from the kettle and said to the two of them, Schumer might have been eaten by a human bear. Otherwise, she might have been captured by wild men and made his wife. We were resting and chatting when we suddenly heard Puppy Milo barking wildly at the depths of the dense forest. Hounds are good dogs with good bloodlines. They will never bark like this unless they are in extremely dangerous situations. I asked Yanis, "What's wrong with the dog? Did it find any wild animals?" Yanis' face was pale. "Hurry up the tree. It's a human bear." When I heard it was a human bear, I quickly climbed up a big tree. When I looked down, Yanis was holding Biggie Wang's butt with all his strength. Biggie Wang couldn't climb trees, so he struggled to hold the trunk and rubbed up a little bit. I quickly slid down from the tree again, and Yanis and I held Biggie Wang's buttocks. Biggie Wang finally climbed up to the lowest big fork and lay on it with sweat all over his head, saying, "My, this tree is too fucking high." Puppy Milo's cries became more and more urgent. Before Yanis and I climbed up the tree, we saw a black-haired man-bear coming out of the bushes. It was immediately excited when it saw a living person, and it stood up and roared like thunder. Yanis had been hunting in the mountains with her father for many years and had extremely rich experience. Without thinking too much, she raised her hunting rifle and fired a shot at the man-bear. There was a splash of fire, and the bullet hit the man-bear's belly. Because the distance was very close and the man-bear's abdomen was the softest, the shot opened a big hole in its belly, and blood and intestines flowed out at the same time. The bear was injured and extremely angry. He stuffed his intestines back with his big paw and then rushed towards Yanis violently. Yanis's hunting rifle could not fire continuously. There were trees and thorns behind him, and he had nowhere to escape. He could only close his eyes and wait for death. Saving people was the most important thing. I didn't have time to think about it. I quickly raised my gun and aimed at the bear's head. If I missed this shot, Yanis would be finished. Thinking of this, my hands trembled a little. I gritted my teeth and pulled the trigger. With a bang, the huge recoil of the hunting rifle almost knocked me over, and I sat on the ground. I don't know if the lethality of the musket was not enough, or I shot off the target. Although I hit the bear's head, I only blinded one of its eyes. Although this shot was not fatal, it saved Yanis. The bear was blinded in one eye, his face was covered with blood, and half of his eyeball was still hanging in his eye socket. He became even crazier and left Yanis alone and rushed towards me. At this time, puppy Milo bit the bear's hind legs from behind. The bear turned around to catch puppy Milo. Puppy Milo was very alert. When he saw the bear turned around, he ran away and bared his teeth to provoke the bear. Just like that, Yanis and I seized the life-saving seconds and climbed up the tree. The bear was also seriously injured. His intestines were pierced, and a large part of them flowed out. He also lost one eye. Even tigers in the mountains were afraid of him. He had never suffered such a big loss. He wanted to catch puppy Milo, but he was not as fast as the hounds. He wanted to bite the 3 people, but they all climbed up the tree. He turned around under the tree for a few times. Although he was very angry, he didn't know what to do for a while. He was furious and roared to the sky, shaking the valley. I was lying on a big tree and saw the bear below was spinning in a hurry. It forgot that it was in danger. I thought it was funny and shouted to Biggie Wong on another tree. "Biggie Wong, why doesn't your uncle leave? What is he doing? Please persuade him and don't let him down." Biggie Wong was not afraid of the bear, but of heights. To use modern words, he might be a little afraid of heights. He was trembling with fear when he was lying on the tree fork, but he didn't want to suffer any loss when he heard me squeeze him. He cursed at me. "August who? You are so wicked. The person below is not my uncle. Look carefully first. Isn't that your wife?" I laughed and pointed at the bear below and said to Biggie Wong, "Oh, I saw it wrong. It turns out that this is your aunt. I won't be your uncle." Biggie Wang was so angry that he wanted to throw the pine cone on the tree at me, but his 2 hands were tightly holding the tree branch. He was afraid that he would fall down if he let go. He didn't dare to move too much and could only stare at me. I found Biggie Wang's look even more funny, but my smile froze immediately. The bear man under the tree was desperately climbing up the tree where I was. Although it was clumsy, it was extremely powerful. It was seriously injured, and the pain had completely made it lose its mind. In its eyes there were only 3 of us and a dog. It stared with a blood-red bear eye, and the thorns on the big bear's paw firmly grasped the tree trunk. With each leap its huge body climbed up more than a meter. I cursed in my heart. Who the hell told me that bears can't climb trees? Isn't this a trap for me? In the mountains, there is a saying that old hunters tell young hunters. It's better to fight a fierce tiger than a crazy bear. The bear man, who was completely crazy because of the injury, had amazing destructive power and explosive power. I was terrified and had no time to joke with Biggie Wang. I kept thinking about how to get away. At this time, Yanis reminded me, quickly, load the iron sand and shoot its other eye. I then remembered the hunting rifle on my back, and even cursed myself for being useless. I climbed to the top of the tree, untied the belt used to tie my pants, tied the belt to a large branch that could bear my weight, held the hunting rifle with one hand to hang the center of gravity, and freed the other hand to load gunpowder into the hunting rifle. I loaded most of the remaining gunpowder in the ox-horn tube into the barrel of the tooth-lifting gun. The bear climbed very fast and got closer and closer to me. Yanis and Biggie Wang were both sweating for me. I tried my best to focus only on the action of loading the hunting rifle in my hand, and not think about the bear climbing up below. After loading the gunpowder, I pressed the iron sand and used an iron shovel to pound the gunpowder and iron sand. My nose and temples were all sweaty. This hunting rifle was really troublesome. A broken gun was really fatal. In the big forests of the Northeast, many hunters lost their precious lives because they didn't have a quick gun. At this time, if I could have a Type 56 semi-automatic rifle, even if there were 2 or 3 more bears, it would not be a problem. In this case, even a pistol would be fine. Just when I finished loading the iron sand gunpowder and replaced the tinder flint, the bear's claws had already scratched my feet. I quickly retracted my feet, turned the muzzle downward, and fired a shot at the bear's head. Because there was too much gunpowder in this shot, the smoke rose and smoked my face black. The musket relies on the force of gunpowder spray to stimulate iron sand, but the angle was too low, which caused the iron sand pressed in the barrel to loosen, and it did not exert its due power. The bear man climbed up. This time he didn't climb the tree anymore. Like a heavy tank, he roared and rammed his fat body into the tree, shaking the pine needles and cones on the tree like raindrops. Fortunately, I used my armed belt to hang my arms, so I didn't get shaken off. I was a little worried that the tree was not strong enough, and it would break completely if the bear man hit it a few more times. I didn't expect that I would die in the deep mountains and forests today. When death is imminent, I can't lose face. I have to show some revolutionary spirit and let Biggie Wang Yanis see that I, Lahu, am definitely not a coward. So I shouted at Yanis and Biggie Wang, "It seems that I have to go to see Marx. Sorry, comrades, I will go ahead and reserve a seat for you. If you have anything to say to the revolutionary mentor, I will definitely convey it to you." Biggie Wang shouted to me from another big tree more than 10 meters away, "Comrade Lao Hu, don't worry, the revolutionary cause can be of great help to you. When you go to Loma's place, study the revolutionary theory well. I heard that they always eat potatoes stewed with beef. Are you used to it?" I replied, "When have we, the revolutionaries, ever been picky about food?" "Biggie Comrade Wang, just keep pushing the revolutionary cart forward. The red flags are rolling up the serfs' halberds, the black hands are holding the overlords' whips, and the remaining 2/3 of the suffering masses in the world are all up to you to liberate. I will eat beef stew with potatoes every day." Yanis cried anxiously, "It's already so late, and you two still have the time to talk nonsense. Come up with a solution quickly." Just when we were at a loss, the bear stopped hitting the tree with its body, stopped, and sat on the ground panting. It turned out that the bear had lost a lot of blood and kept tossing. Although it had amazing brute force, it would also be exhausted. This time it calmed down from the rage, learned its lesson, and waited for the opportunity to work hard. It sat under the tree and fought with us. Puppy Milo also saw the power of the bear and dared not approach the bear to bite. It squatted far away. It was also very hungry, but out of loyalty to its owner, it refused to find food by itself. Yanis felt sorry for his dog, so he whistled for Puppy Milo to find something to eat, and then Puppy Milo left. The three of them lay on the tree to discuss countermeasures, but after thinking it over, there was really no feasible solution. If they got down from the tree and fought hard with the old-fashioned muskets in their hands, they would undoubtedly seek death. Most of the people in the village were not there, and there was no hope of anyone coming to rescue them. In order not to fall off the tree, they had to tie their bodies tightly to the tree trunk with their belts to see who could outlast the other in the end. This formed a stalemate, which was the most disadvantageous to the three people on the tree. The thrilling fight between man and bear just now had exhausted most of our strength. It was almost night now. The three of us had not slept for 2 days and 1 night. We only ate a few cornmeal cakes during the day. We were hungry and sleepy. I was afraid that we would faint from hunger and fall off the tree before tomorrow morning. This scene reminded me of a poem by Chairman Mao. The enemy army surrounded us with thousands of heavy sieges, but I remained unmoved. However, there was no flag in sight at the foot of the mountain. Only the bear man was waiting. With all my random thoughts, I fell asleep on the tree trunk. I don't know how long it took before I felt hungry and painful in my stomach. I woke up and saw the sky was full of stars and the crescent moon was like a hook. It was already late at night. The whole forest was quiet. I looked under the moonlight and found that the bear man under the tree was gone. I don't know when it left. The branches were dense, and I couldn't see if Yanis and Biggie Wong were still in the tree, so I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Yanis, Biggie Wong, are you still in the tree?" I asked several times, and the shouts echoed in the valley in the middle of the night, but the two did not respond at all. Although I was brave, I couldn't help but feel a little scared when I thought that I was left alone in the primeval forest. I thought these two guys were too mean. How could they forget me and not call me when they left? I shouted twice more from the tree, but there was still no response. I looked around anxiously and found a place with flickering lights not far ahead. I didn't expect that there were people living in such a place. Did the two of them also see the lights and go there to look for someone? In the dark night, I couldn't tell the directions of east, south, west, and north. I could only hear the roar of the water. I looked up and found the direction of the North Star. It seemed that the lights should come from the direction of Euxin Mountain. I slipped down from the tree and walked towards the lights, with 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. I began to imagine that the owner of the lights was an old hunter living in the mountains, with a white beard, very kind, warm, and hospitable. Seeing an educated young man like me who was lost in the forest, he would definitely treat me warmly, first make me a cup of hot tea, and then roast a deer leg for me to eat. The more I thought about it, the hungrier I felt. I wiped the saliva from the corner of my mouth with my sleeve. I was walking while thinking about food, and soon I arrived in front of a huge cave. The deep part of the cave was brightly lit. It was strange. I saw those lights not far away just now, but now I was deep in the cave. Maybe I was so hungry that I was dazzled. Driven by the huge temptation of roasted venison in my imagination, I walked into the cave. I walked to the end of the dark and long cave in 2 steps. I found that there was a large space in the belly of the mountain, which made people feel bright. Suddenly I saw 5 or 6 young girls walking side by side, talking and laughing. It was clearly summer, but they were wearing luxurious fur coats with classical styles, which seemed not modern clothes. Only one of them was wearing seasonal blue khaki clothes. She had 2 braids on her head and a military green canvas shoulder bag with the words "Serve the People" on her shoulder. Hey, isn't that Schumer? Yes, it was definitely Schumer. She was an educated youth from Suzhou. Biggie Wang and I were from Fujian. Although we were all from the south, we didn't know each other very well. Mainly because Biggie Wang and I were too naughty and always got into trouble, so the honest and quiet girls didn't dare to get close to us. However, seeing an acquaintance in this strange cave, I felt more or less at ease. I hurriedly took 2 steps and shouted to Schumer, "Zhaoshen, why are you here? Is there anything to eat?" Schumer turned her head and saw that it was me, and waved at me, motioning me to come closer. I walked over and said to her, "You are having a great time here. We were almost eaten by a bear because we were looking for you. What is this place? Do you have anything to eat? I am so hungry that my stomach is sticking to my back." Schumer said, "I am so sorry. It's all my fault. I got lost when I went to Lamagoo to collect herbs and was rescued by these kind sisters. They are going to perform shadow play now. You came at the right time. Let's watch it together before going back." Then she introduced me to several young women around her. They all spoke with local accents and were very polite. They also brought me some dried venison and invited me to watch the show together. I followed them inside and saw a city in the middle of the vast cave with magnificent buildings, bright lights, and various antiques and jades piled up like mountains around. Paper lanterns and white cloth were set up in front of the city gate, and more than a dozen musicians sat behind them, playing gongs and drums. In front of them was a long table with an antique style. The teaware and teacups on the table were all very exquisite, and there was another large red agate tray filled with fruits and snacks. There were 3 chairs in front of the table. The women in mink furs asked Schumer and me to sit on the left and right respectively. The chair in the middle was vacant, as if an important person was coming. Seeing that there were only 3 seats, and the rest of the people were standing in the back, Schumer felt a little sorry and wanted to refuse. I was tired and hungry, and I didn't care about being polite. Anyway, the people's country belongs to the people, and since there are seats, it doesn't matter who sits, so I sat down carelessly and grabbed the food in front of me and ate. Maybe I was very hungry. Although the food was exquisite, it didn't taste good. It was like chewing wax. After a few bites, I thought it was weird. At this time, 2 girls helped an old lady with luxurious clothes and white hair to walk out of the gate and sit in the middle. Schumer and I stood up to greet the host. Seeing the old lady's appearance, I felt even weirder. What era is it now? How can there still be a landlord's wife? The old lady nodded to both of us, sat down in the middle, and waited for the show without saying a word. The young woman standing behind her clapped her hands, and the musicians and puppeteers in the troupe heard the order and performed hard together. Shadow play originated in the Han and Tang dynasties. It is also known as lantern shadow play. It is a very popular art among the people. Donkey skin is used to carve out the characters and animals in the play. The artists sing and manipulate the lyrics behind the white curtain, accompanied by gongs and drums. There are no less than hundreds of complete sets of plays. However, this art form was naturally affected during the Cultural Revolution and was criticized as a poisonous weed that promoted talented men and beautiful women, emperors and generals. No one dared to perform it again. I never thought that I would be able to see it here today. This kind of performance was so attractive in that era when cultural life was zero. I was so busy watching the show that I completely forgot about other things. The big plays performed by the Shadow Play were all very exciting. First, Emperor Taizong Dreaming of Guanghan Palace was performed, and then Di Qing Seizes Kunlun Pass at Night began. The stage was full of swords and swords, soldiers and generals came and went, and it was exciting. With the drums and music, the audience couldn't help but cheer. I was so shocked and thirsty that I reached out to take the teacup on the table to drink water. I accidentally looked at the old lady next to me and saw that she was also watching with a smile on her face. She took the preserved fruits and snacks on the table and ate them while watching. The way she chewed the food was very strange. Her cheeks bulged like an old monkey, sucking and sucking. My grandmother had no teeth when she was old, but she would never eat like this. Is this old lady a human or a monkey? I was confused, and the teacup in my hand fell to the ground and broke into pieces. It didn't matter that the teacup broke, but the old lady's head also fell to the ground. Her head was still staring at the Shadow Play and chewing non-stop. The maid under the old lady hurried over and picked up her head respectfully and pressed it against her body. I knew I had encountered a ghost, so I pulled Schumer up and ran out of the cave. We stumbled out of the cave in the darkness. I heard loud rumbling noises, and the ground kept shaking. The cave behind me closed into a huge stone wall. If I had come out half a minute later, I would have been trapped to death in the wall. It was already bright outside. I pulled Schumer to the stream at the foot of the mountain. Suddenly I felt a terrible pain in my stomach. The pain made my forehead sweat. I couldn't help but squat down. It seemed that there was something wrong with the food they gave me. I remembered hearing my grandfather tell stories about ghosts inviting people to eat. Ghosts used stones, frogs, and maggots to turn into delicious food to trick people into eating and drinking. I didn't know what kind of ghost bird I had just eaten. The more I thought about it, the more disgusted I felt. I couldn't help but vomit. I was in a coma for 3 days and had a high fever of more than 40 degrees. Biggie Wong ran 100 miles of mountain roads to ask the county doctor to treat me. I was strong and finally woke up, but Schumer was still unconscious. We had to notify her relatives to take her home for treatment. As for what happened to her later, we didn't know. I told Giannis's father about my experience. He told me that what I encountered might be a ghost market, also known as a ghost show. There is a legend in the mountains that when the Queen Mother died, many folk jugglers were buried alive as burial objects. In the past, some people had seen the same thing as me in Neuxin Mountain. However, these things are vague in my memory, and sometimes I am not sure if they really happened. My life as an educated youth lasted only half a year, which was not very long, but the memories left behind will never fade away. In the spring festival of 1969, it was my turn to go home to visit my family, and my fate took another huge turn.